All right, to start things off, we got the red slide. This is the important one. We're not about censorship. We say fuck a lot. Like, get comfortable with hearing it because we're gonna rain fucks all night. Let's fucking go! We do have a code of conduct. If you see folks rocking a yellow badge, that's your friendly security blanket if shit gets weird. White badges are your fallback if you're too hammered to remember. Keep your fuckery in check though, because we don't want real drama to deal with. Read the fucking code of conduct at SecKC.org/code of conduct if you're not sure, and don't be a dick.
No, I wrote that.
All right, let's talk about the golden rule around here. Destroy no data, maintain no persistence, and above all, do no harm. That means we're here to learn, share, and occasionally shit talk. But not to fuck people over. If you're gonna hack, don't be an asshole. The second you cross the line and cause damage, you're on your own. Fun fact, the state and federal law enforcement might, and I say that loosely, might be lurking right here in this room, sipping beers with the rest of us. So if you're about to brag about your latest black hat bullfuckery, maybe reconsider. Actually, let me rephrase, definitely reconsider, because they're out here, and we're having no fucking... Because they're out there, and we have no fucking membership list to give them. You do you, but keep your felony confessions to a minimum. All right, so who's welcome at SecKC? Does anybody know? Everyone! That's right, SecKC welcomes... That's right, SecKC welcomes all the weirdos, all the hackers, all the noobs, all the gurus. We literally don't give a fuck what your background is. Just choose to be a part of this big dysfunctional family. Also, assume every motherfucker here is some kind of technical wizard. You never know who might overhear you bragging about some shady shit, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now we have a handy acronym, STFU. What does that mean?
Shut the fuck up!
That's right, that means shut the fuck up. If someone's speaking at the podium, seriously, we actually respect the people who come up here with slides and mics. Give them your attention, or at least keep your side chatter down low. Otherwise, we'll roast your ass live on stage. All right, this one's simple. Go say hi to some random motherfucker. That's how you make new friends in the hacker world. Challenge ideas, not people. No personal attacks. All right, the Google form. This is for pizza orders. We don't care who you are. So for the love of pizza and beer, fill that shit out if you want to eat and want to have enough pizza for everyone.
It's okay to lie.
All right, SecKC.org/connect. Follow our social shit. Hop on Discord at discord.gg/SecKC or find us on Twitter, infosec.exchange, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever the fuck you use for stalking folks. And if you want some cool shit to wear or slap on your laptop, go to SecKC.org/products to buy yourself some motherfucking SecKC swag. Also, there's going to be an announcement later today about a swag contest that I'm putting on. So everybody, you don't even have to be an artist. Just get prepared for the announcement later. If you got any sort of skill, maybe you're good at design, maybe you're good at, maybe you set up a dope Wi-Fi pineapple, maybe you can bribe bartenders, any talent at all, we want your help. Check out SecKC.org/volunteer and pitch in. This place runs on volunteer power and questionable amounts of caffeine. So, be part of this madness. We want you.
I thought there was more than that.
What more do you want, Joel? We drink a lot too.
And tip a lot.
And tip a lot. Tip your bartenders.
Yes.
All right. Be the change you want to see. Got opinions on how we can do better? Drop that shit in the suggestion box channel on Discord. No, we don't take smoke signals. No, we don't take telepathic transmissions. We do read Discord though. So if you want to complain, do it there. Then do something about it to help us fix it. Bitching is cool, but constructive bitching is better. All right, this one's close to home. Calling all ham radio wannabes. Listen listen up, you ham radio wannabes. You can get your ham radio license tested right fucking now in the shut the fuck up room. Yeah, see the guy back there raising his hand? Go talk to him and you can get your ham radio license. That means you can legally get on the airwaves and talk to random weirdos across the planet. Spots are limited, so sign up. Bring your ID. If your name doesn't match your face or something, read on Discord. Study your asses off at Ham Study, because guess what? You can't just bullshit your way through. Actually, you might just try. Just say. Alright, so we're not the only badass group in Kansas City. We've got Whisk, ISA, and a bunch of other motherfucking InfoSec events. Some in person, some virtual. We got Colonel Khan, Beatz SecKC, which is next month. Do you all have your tickets to Beatz yet? Let's go. We got Secure World, Beatz Nashville, ThoughtCon. Dates are on the slides. Go check them out if you want to overdose on happy conferences. Because that's what we do for fun, right?
Double vodka.
All right, so tonight's lineup, we've got Make Excuses from, well, really, right now we got 6 o'clock, SecKC 101 with me, and then we got, oh, nice. Thank you, Crazy. We got OSINT News coming up right after this at 6:15. And don't forget to GoFundMe for Wayne Crowder. He's had to battle with a brain tumor. For real, if you can toss some bucks this way, please do. It's been somewhere on the slide. We are big fans of looking out for
great security. There was an ESP32 backdoor, which, upon further investigation, isn't a backdoor at all. And it seems like this company was just trying to get their name out there. Great job, guys. On to some interesting things. There was a whole thing about U.S. Cyber Command being told, I think it was to like not target Russia or to stand down against Russia. That apparently is false. That is as much as I know about it. EA, Electronic Arts, for once in their fucking lives, did something not really useless, and they actually made a bunch of games code open source. Not technically open source, they put it on GitHub. You want to do, like, was it Command and Conquer? Or Command and Conquer? The source code's on GitHub. If you want to download it, do whatever the fuck you want with it. Fuck Flock in every conceivable way. They actually just need to go fucking die. They sent a cease and desist to the person running dflock.me, which I highly recommend you check out. Phenomenal website if you want to see where all the automatic license plate readers on my Flock are. Please check it out. PayPal, great job PayPal. They rolled out a new feature that allows their emails to be spoofed for phishing. Great job PayPal, killing it. Some takedowns. I don't know how you say their name, like Grantex, whatever. They're a washing machine, if you will, a laundromat maybe. Anyway, Grantex? Okay, Grantex. Anyway, they got their domain seized. Verisyn, spyware, similar to NSO Group, they got shut down, as in the company was shut down. I bet you all of the people are going to face no consequences and are going to have another company within a week. Speaking of NSO Group, a bunch of NSO Group execs are being investigated for, I believe it was using WhatsApp to hack people. Very cool. The DOJ charged 12 associates of AP27, the Chinese affiliated group. That's pretty cool. On to some balls. There was a Cabana, RCE. Hope no one hears this Cabana. Or if you do, you patched. Tons of Siemens issues. There was a very, very long list. I didn't read the whole list, but I highly recommend everyone read the list. It's lots of stuff. That was yesterday. There was an Apache, I think it was ACL bypass. So, I hope no one hears this Apache. Classic Jenkins. Oh, everyone hears the Jenkins. More leaking configurations. Great job, Jenkins. I know everyone loves Cisco and all of their products. That's okay. We got another WebEx issue. This one exposes credentials. Great job, Cisco. Fucking patch. Everyone who's running anything from Broadcom, fucking patch for the love of God. There's a whole list which allows VM escapes all the way to what's a root of the hypervisor. Fucking patch for the love of God. There's a very cool exploit in Apple's Find My, like the AirTags. It's not technically an exploit, I don't think with Apple, but it allows you to track any Bluetooth Mac or any Bluetooth device you have a Mac of using Apple's network. They basically found the keys that allow them to search Apple's database for a particular Mac. Here's everyone's monthly PAN-OS authentication bypass. Hope everyone was looking forward to that. I didn't read how this one works. At this point, I don't fucking care. They need to stop. On to some stuff that just fucking sucks. The UK quietly pulled all their encryption device, which is, you'll see why in a minute. The Polish Space Agency has been shut down for a little bit. I don't know if they're back up yet or not, but they got hit with cyber attack. The Missouri Department of Conservation is investigating a potential breach, but I'm not sure what the specifics on that are. I don't think they've made those public yet. There's another piece of stalkerware with a massive fucking hole in it if you just want to walk in and see what's in there. This one's Spizy. Spizy's a great name. It's like 500,000 users. North Korea made bank off Bybit. They pulled 1.5 or 1.4 billion in crypto. Just a tiny, tiny bit to fund their war effort. And back to the UK, Apple pulled end-to-end encryption, the new feature that they were offering worldwide from the UK specifically because the UK unless you give us backdoor keys to everything worldwide. And Apple was like, well, now no. So they just stopped having that feature in the UK. Salt Typhoon, in other news, hasn't stopped. I don't even know what their current list of victims is, but it's long. Sophos laid off another 6% of their workforce after they acquired SecureWorks because, I don't know, they had a bunch of reasons. I don't know. 18F, I don't know if anyone actually heard of 18F. I hadn't heard of 18F until I saw this, but they were shut down, essentially. They, from what I understand, they implement and maintain tools for other government agencies that don't, so that they don't have to spend obscene amounts of money on shitty vendor solutions, which sucks they're gone. New Firefox terms of use. I don't know if anyone else saw this, but Firefox was like, hey, we got terms of use now. We get access to all your stuff that you use Firefox for. And everyone was like, the fuck? And then Firefox was like, well, actually, we need that so that we can function as a browser. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. Especially because Chrome pulled uBlock by now. Also, Brother, bunch of fucking assholes.
They always have been.
They always have been. They were better than HP. Now they're just as fucking bad.
That doesn't take much.
It's not like a high bar, but it was a bar that they were clearing. They put the fucking bar on the floor again. Anyway, they are now doing shit with DRM and printer ink because reasons, money. Honestly, funny stuff. There's only really one thing I thought was really funny. Sweden was demanding a backdoor in Signal. You can imagine how that went. But yeah, that was about it actually. There was a lot more stuff. I wasn't able to put as much in as I would like. There's a lot of political stuff that I think is directly relevant to cybersecurity right now that I didn't want to deal with covering right now. But yeah, I hope everyone had a great time with the news.
Beatz channel and don't do much else in there. I'm a SOC analyst, former IT guy from which I'm still recovering. Some starts in schooling, jammed in programming, otherwise vibing in the lab, you know, let's go. Basic process injection. First we're going to talk about what it is, why it is, how it is a little bit. Then we're really going to get into how it is with the Windows API. A little bit of a demo. We're going to talk some telemetry, and then we're going to wrap it all up with why it kind of fucking sucks, or at least the demo we're doing today kind of fucking sucks in a random sense. First of all, MITRE defines process injection as a method of executing arbitrary code within a separate live process. Pretty straightforward. A more thorough definition comes from the Red Canary 2023 threat report. Malicious activity by proxy through processes with information of value or that blend in with benign OS activity. We can stitch those two things ass to ass and say that process injection really is an array of techniques, an enormous array of techniques for executing arbitrary code within other processes, most often to evade detection or extract information. Zooming in on that first part a little bit, executing arbitrary code. What kind of code are we executing? Well, majority of the time it's machine code. This is unmanaged EXEs, DLLs, PE images, and shell code. And I'd like to highlight the difference between unmanaged code and managed code, because this is a bit of a Microsoftism. Managed code is produced by your compiler when you write in a language like C or C++. It gets compiled to a PE image that contains the assembly instructions expected by your CPU, as defined by your instruction set architecture. This is compared with managed code, which relies on a runtime environment. When you use something like .NET, that's PowerShell, C#, VB, you compile C# to an intermediate language, which is then fed to the CLR, the common common language runtime. My bad. So some techniques focus on injecting unmanaged code, and some techniques target the runtime environment and focus on injecting intermediate code. This is really popular with some lolbins, let you execute .NET assemblies. Some of the benefits of process injection. First of all, avoiding file-based signature checks. You do not have to write every single payload to the disk. You can write one payload to the disk, break that signature, and then deliver subsequent stages directly to memory. Microsoft has an interesting piece of documentation, a taxonomy of fileless threads, which kind of put into perspective, for me at least, you see people talking about like a reflective PE loader for fileless malware, and you think to yourself, why the fuck is it called fileless? You just dropped an EXE on disk. Well, that would be what is it? A type 3. No. Turn over here. EXE. What else in the disk or somewhere? Oh, no, it is type 3. The fucking way this is broken up is a little confusing sometimes, but the color is mostly what you want to focus on. So an EXE would be a type 3 fileless thread. It does involve dropping a file to disk, but that file goes on to deliver more code in a fileless manner. Going back to the whole blending in thing, I have a little story to tell here with Alice and evil.exe. I want you to tell me what's more suspicious. Evil.exe, an unsigned evil running as user Alice, spawns, modifies the registry, and then exits. Or an unsigned evil spawns, exits, and then sometime later SVC host modifies the registry. One of those is a lot more straightforward. You may notice that SVC host is running as an NTL authority system. This does represent an elevation in privilege, of course assuming user Alice has some sort of administrative rights over this fictional client 01 machine. That's another thing process injection is used for quite often. WinLogon is a really popular process that runs as system, is not a protected process like, so people either inject into it or duplicate the token from it to execute code as system.
I think anything with I think if it's running, if service host is doing the thing, that's less straightforward, which suggests to me that's the more suspicious one. It occurs to me that service host is executing something rather than just evil.exe, or call it file name, executing something is more suspicious, because if you can
because it's being hosted in the service host executable, it's less suspicious, right? Yeah, and this goes back to the whole benign OS activity thing. The reason I chose SecKC host for this particular example is because service host is a very common process. It's a user mode process used to host Windows services, so it's going to exist on every Windows box ever. These identifiers here, these are actually MITRE entries for, that first one's a campaign, the rest of them are individual pieces of software that have been observed injecting into SecKC host. Those are just the ones from the MITRE page that explicitly mention SecKC host. So it's a pretty popular technique. Here we have an example of a process injection gone wrong. We can see that Microsoft Defender has correctly attributed a process injection back to PowerShell. Really, process injection is only beneficial when you manage to do it in such a way that it is undetected. If your injection itself is detected, then that sort of execution flow remains intact and it's much easier to investigate. That's why EDR is such a problem when it comes to process injection, because they're pretty good at the behavioral stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute.
What's EDR?
Endpoint detection and response. It's there's a lot of marketing shit that goes into this, right? Legacy antiviruses, of course, were really heavily focused on file-based signatures. That's why things like process injection tend to do well against really oldie antiviruses. More modern solutions involve a lot of behavioral detections through a fucking ton of super detailed telemetry, some of which we're going to talk about. I forget where I was going with that.
EDR, telemetry.
Oh yeah, EDR is fucking antivirus on steroids, plus a SIM. Another popular use for process injection is migration, what's known as process migration. The idea is you're moving a malware agent completely from one process to another. This is really particularly popular among C2 frameworks. Here we have a snippet from Sliver, which I've been told is popular. Many C2 frameworks provide this functionality. The main purpose of it is to escape from an unstable process. If you perform some sort of remote memory corruption, you may leave that target process in an unstable state. And it's better to escape that process into an unaffected process before it becomes so unstable that it crashes. Here we have another example. This is from Metasploit, which is really popular for its migrate command. Actually, a quick word on Metasploit. They used to use create remote thread for their process migration. They actually changed that a few months ago. Now, Interpreter uses pool party. Not party. Is that what it's called? With the, I swear to God, it's called pool party. I might just be thinking about the Counter-Strike map though. Anyway, Interpreter migration doesn't work the same way it did a few months ago. So, extracting information from a target process is another particularly popular usage of process injection. The example that you see everywhere is LSASS. Dumping LSASS memory or injecting into LSASS to interact with the hypervisor if credential guard is in play. But I really wanted to use this as an opportunity to mention those damn cheaters in all of my favorite online video games, ruining my experience. All those damn cheaters are using process injection.
Fuck the cheaters!
Yeah!
Fuck those cheaters!
They're all using process injection to inject their cheats into the game. And actually, there's a lot of overlap, quite a few similarities between evading EDR systems and evading anti-cheat. So if you're researching process injection, you will inevitably come across a forum or a thread on the unknown cheats forum. Read it. They fucking know what they're doing. These anti-cheats are no joke. You should take the unknown cheats people seriously. So that's the what, why, and a little bit of the how on process injection. Now I really want to talk about the how. How do we do a process injection? We interact with the Windows API. What is the Windows API? It is I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. The Windows API provides memory and thread management services that can be invoked from user mode, where we're writing our code most of the time. By abusing these services, we can do things like insert code into memory and spawn new threads. These services provided by the Windows kernel, of course, exist in the kernel. Our code runs in user mode. If you've ever studied operating systems, you've probably seen a diagram like this. The outer ring represents user mode. That's where our applications run, or at least us normal fucking people that have retained our sanity. We write code in user mode. All the services that we're abusing exist in the kernel, so we need some way to transition from user mode to the kernel in order to use those functions. And really, that's what the Windows API is a set of functions and data structures that you can use to ask Windows to do stuff. That Stack Overflow thread is fucking 15 years old, by the way. That's how long this shit's been going on. The Microsoft documentation describes it as the native platform for apps that require access to system features and hardware, all right? Again, I stitch those two definitions as to ask, and I say that the API is a set of functions that developers use to interact with system features. Pretty straightforward. The API is fucking enormous, by the way. It covers fucking everything. You can go look at the API index. If you click into any one of these, it'll show you all the massive lists of functions that you can call. Today we're interested in the system services portion of the API, which of course involves memory and thread manipulation. So, above the dotted line is user mode, where our code executes. Below the dotted line is kernel mode. And this is a simplified overview of the API architecture. Us sane people, we invoke functions that exist on the surface layer, the Win32 functions. These functions live inside those crazy fucking DLL files in your System32 folder. A lot of them used to be located in kernel 32. They've been relocated to kernel base in more modern versions of Windows. Kernel 32 is just forwards and exports to kernel base. So we invoke a function on the surface such as open process. Well, the open process function in kernel base is mostly just a wrapper around a similar function in NTDLL. What NTDLL is doing is setting up and performing a sort of special assembly instruction called a system call. The literal instruction that gets executed is dependent on your hardware, on your instruction set architecture. Sometimes it's syscall, sometimes it's sysenter. Older systems used to use fucking int 0x80 or whatever the fuck. I don't really give a shit about that one. Once the syscall is performed, that's our user mode way of saying, hey kernel, my hands are off, I have prepared an API request for you, please take it forth and do what I ask you to do, please. The kernel also exists in your System32 folder under TLS kernel.exe. That's the error message you get if you try to run your operating system kernel as if it was a normal application. I just think that's kind of funny. This inevitably becomes important to understand. Today, we're just going to be using functions on that surface layer up there, but it eventually becomes important to understand this architecture because there are techniques that involve interacting with the lower user mode layers of the API. You may have heard of direct syscalls. This is the idea that if you set up and manually perform the syscall instruction yourself, you can skip the top level function, you can skip over NTDLL, and you just go straight into transitioning to the kernel. We'll talk later about user mode hooking a little bit, which is mainly what direct syscalls are meant to combat, but that's for later. So just know that there's plenty of techniques that involve interacting with the lower layers of the API. And finally, it's important to understand that those techniques that do interact with the lower layers are inherently unstable, because everything below the surface is subject to change. That's kind of the reason it's architected this way, is Microsoft just has to maintain that sort of stable raft of functions on the surface, and they can change whatever they want beneath that, and the developer is none the wiser. They don't really have to worry about it. But it does mean that functions like direct syscall are kind of dependent on your Windows version. Did I say functions like a syscall? Techniques like direct syscalls are dependent on your version, and if you're hard-coding syscall numbers, that's going to change in the next version. That's why techniques like Hell's Gate or whatever, syswhispers, exist to dynamically resolve syscall numbers. But yeah, just know that you can target those lower layers. It is a bit unstable though. So this goes back to the whole unmanaged code thing. If you're writing unmanaged code in a language like C or C++, the only thing you need to interact with the Windows API is the proper header files. if you check the documentation for whatever function you're trying to invoke, it'll tell you outright what header file you need to include, so that info's pretty easy to find. In a managed language, however, runs inside of the common language runtime. In order to invoke unmanaged functions from within your managed code, you have to use what's called pinvoke, or platform invoke. And platform invoke is essentially a means of redefining the API functions inside of your common language runtime so that you can invoke them. Almost demo time. We're going to run through a real quick demo we're going to do. If you're familiar with process injection at all, you'll recognize this sequence. It's like the fucking Coca-Cola classic of process injections. First, we want to obtain a handle to the target process. We're going to be using open process, and we do have to pass the privileges we want. A handle is just an object that represents a set of privilege authorized against some other object, in this case a process. And we're going to be asking the kernel for permissions to create threads and write to the virtual memory of that target process. And you can see all the constants used for requesting that access in the process security and access rights documentation. Secondly, we're going to insert our payload. First, we have to allocate memory in the target process. A special mention of DEP here, data execution prevention. Originally, like a mitigation for buffer overflows, it's supposed to make sure that data on the stack cannot be executed. It does that by assigning permissions to memory pages, read, write, or execute. Essentially, this means that whenever we allocate memory or whenever we go to execute code in memory that we allocated in the target process, we have to make sure that memory is marked as executable. This is kind of where the title comes from, RWX, read, write, execute. It's really common for lazy process injections to allocate read, write, execute, write to it, and then just fire away. That's a really easy way to get caught. Because RWX memory pages are not impossible to occur naturally, but they're not probable by any means. So we're just going to request RWX on a memory page, which should satisfy DEP, and then we're going to use write process memory to put our, we're going to use some shellcode today, by the way. I'm not injecting any exe or DLL or anything like that. We're going to generate some shellcode within SF and write that shellcode to the process with write process memory. And at that point, we will have achieved insertion. Finally, we want to invoke that shellcode within the target process. We're just going to use create remote thread. Again, Coca-Cola classic of process injection. I wanted to take this as an opportunity to mention the Windows Internals Part 1 book. Damn near everything that is in this presentation is, well, besides the process injection part, but all of the Windows parts, all the parts of the Windows API and whatnot, it's chapter fucking 1 of Windows Internals Part 1. This book is awesome. So you should definitely go read that. And you should definitely buy it from Microsoft. Definitely give Microsoft your money for this book. When we do this demo, which is just about right now, we're going to be using System Informer, formerly known as Process Hacker, to observe all different kinds of changes to the target process. It begins. Open up our counting machine now.
Yes, it's Cali. Yeah! No, I don't have SSH running. No, it's not bridged to the network.
Not even try it. First, we're going to start Nginx. We're using Nginx to both serve our files to the target and to accept our C2. Configured to be a reverse proxy, you'll see that later.
Let's head on over to our Windows machine.
We're going to be running as a low privilege user, Bob, who's just a standard user, no administrative privileges. We are going to emulate ourselves a type 3 fileless threat according to that piece of Microsoft documentation. I'm just going to drop a fucking exe to disk. We're here to watch process injection, not learn how to use a little bins. Okay? go ahead and build our executable. Let's see. I prepared some scripts so you don't have to watch me fat finger as much. Here we're just going to use PowerShell to disable TLS validation and download our injector. Go ahead and spin up our injector. It's a tiny little command thing here. Got some variables we need to set. First, we're going to spawn a target process. We're going to start with Notepad.
Again, we're going to be using System Informer to look at all sorts of stuff, but first we're going to get the process ID of Notepad 5864. Set PID 5864, set pause true.
So, this is one of the benefits of process injection that we were talking about earlier, delivering malware stages directly to memory. I do not have our payload embedded inside the EXE. We're going to be fetching the payload here at runtime from our Nginx server. So first we have to go generate our payload. Our first payload is just going to be a message box. I've censored the text that's going to pop up just to maintain some sort of mystery to the whole thing.
I'm just a zero.
So we should be all set up here. Yep. So step one, of course, is to obtain a handle for the target process. This handle has to be observed inside of the injector instead of in the target, obviously, because the handle is owned by the injector. It should be the only handle to a process object here, right here. In our injector, we see a handle to the target notepad process. We open that up. However, over here, we can see we have been granted privileges by the kernel to create threads and write to the virtual memory. Easy as. And that the whole requesting permissions using the open process is subject to Windows access control checks. We're running as a low privilege user Bob here, so we're not going to be able to do anything like injecting into SVC host, like what was in the example earlier. But Bob can spawn processes, and Bob can inject from his own processes into other processes that he owns. So it's as easy as that. Go back to Notepad. We've got our handle. Our next step is to allocate virtual memory. We could search for this memory segment by address, but it's a lot easier to just sort by memory protections. Because like I said earlier, the read, write, execute is not improbable, or it is improbable but not impossible. So we should be the only RWX segment in this entire fucking thing, if I can find it right there. One single RWX segment allocated by us. Open that up, you can see it's empty because we haven't written anything there. On the next step, write process memory. We're right into that allocation that we just did. So if we reread, we should see our code has now been dumped into memory right there. If you squint closely, you might be able to see the message that's going to pop up. I'm going to move on though. Next step, obviously, invoke execution. We just fire create remote thread. And if we turn back to our notepad process, we should see a new window saying, hello, SecKC. Hello. Hello. And then we go to, let's close that out, we don't need that anymore. Let's see our threads. And we can see one thread with a start address that matches the address that was given to us by the allocation. Oh, that in it. We open that up, we can see the call stack did eventually bubble up into the message box function, which is what our payload was set to do. If we interact with this dialog box, the thread will die out, and if we refresh this, we get an error because the thread is died. So that's the step-by-step. That's observing that's kind of fucking boring. Let's do something fun. Okay? We're gonna fucking target MS Edge. We're gonna generate a new payload real quick. Payload 2. This time we're gonna fucking inject a whole ass interpreter into MS Edge. You probably see where I'm going with this. Come back over here. I'm gonna need the process ID of MS Edge. Let's pick one that's consistently getting time on CPU. Uh-oh. Nope. 7640 or 6632. This could be our best bet.
Set is 6632. Yep. 6632. Disable pausing because I don't want to go through all that shit again. We have to start our listener. How goofy of me.
I got a little resource file here to set up the listener for us, so we'll let that happen real quick. You'll notice we're listening on localhost 4444. Don't be confused by that. Like I said earlier, we have Nginx running as a reverse proxy, so we're serving files and accepting C2 over the same 4443 using HTTPS. So we've got our listener started, we've got our payload generated and ready to be served out of Nginx. We've got MS Edge running and we've got it targeted, so we go ahead and fire our injection. And if we turn back, we should now see a new interpreter session has opened up. Look at that.
If we get process ID, we can see we are inside of process 6632. We list MS Edge process. If we list MS Edge processes, we can see that 6632 is in fact, like we saw before, an MS Edge process. So we've injected an interpreter into MS Edge, and it's phoning home over HTTPS on 443, which is a lot less conspicuous than fucking unsigned eagle.exe phoning home over Pod 4. Pretty straightforward. So that's the injection. That's the demo. Catch up with ourselves here. I was running Sysmon in there. I didn't show it, but I have a little instance running in the background collecting shit from Sysmon. I ran this demo through at home and exported all the data that was collected from that, so you can go view that on GitHub if you want. Source code, exported logs, and the slides themselves are all available right there. Telemetry. Let's talk about data. I want to talk about some fucking data. Let's get caught red-handed. First of all, you gotta know that telemetry is just a fancy word for data. Once you pack those logs up, ship them somewhere, and start looking at them, it's no longer data, it's telemetry. Sysmon is ultimately limited in the amount of information that it gives out that is directly applicable to detecting these types of injections. Process access is going to be the most generic among them. You're going to get a lot of events if you don't filter that down. Process creation is relevant to some types of injection. You'll hear some back and forth if you go watch talks about process injection. There's one from, I have linked later, it's a safe breach talk from 2019 at Black Hat that goes on to define what a true process injection is. I'm not going to fucking weigh in on that. If it's on the fucking MITRE process injection page, I consider it a process injection. So process creation might be applicable. Image loads, of course, are applicable if you're injecting DLLs. Create, remove thread, and process tampering are the most applicable. Process tampering is actually probably the biggest red flag out of the bunch because that shouldn't go off unless an injection is happening. So, really, our telemetry that we collected from Sysmon is of sufficient enough quality to tell the story of our simple injector, right? It's not that hard. Process access, network connection detected, create remote thread, all within like a second. That's a big red flag. We can do better though. Event tracing for Windows is this fucking mechanism that traces all types of shit and outputs events. It has providers output events to sessions, controllers create and destroy sessions, consumers subscribe to sessions to ingest events from it.
particularly, the threat intelligence event provider contains a ton of super high quality telemetry that is scarily targeted at some process injection techniques. I highly recommend checking out ETW Explorer, which kind of just lets you search through all of the types of events that are available. You don't actually get to subscribe to them using ETW Explorer, but you can view what events there are. These are some of those events. Like I said, kind of scarily targeted towards process injection. Here you see queue user APC, set thread, context, suspend thread, resume thread. Those can be directly mapped back to some of the most popular injection techniques. Oh yeah. Quick word on threat intelligence, event provider. This has to do with early launch anti-malware drivers. So an anti-malware company creates a driver, submits it to Microsoft, has it signed so that it can be loaded. When that driver loads, it specifies a Windows service that gets created with a level of privilege elevated even above that of system. They're called protected processes. And by creating a protected process, either legitimately or illegitimately, you can subscribe to the threat intelligence event. So that's just to say that if you spin up an admin command prompt and try to subscribe to this, you're not going to be able to. There's a bit more work to it. Is that really all about threat intelligence? All right. Moving on, function hooks and kernel callbacks. I'm going to vaguely lump these together. I know they're not the same thing. Please don't yell at me. But I'm vaguely lumping them together, and I hope to explain why. So first of all, they both enable additional telemetry. Function hooking is more geared towards intercepting and terminating malicious behavior patterns. Kernel callbacks maybe can do the same thing. I'm a bit gray in that area. First, we're going to talk about hooking, redirecting execution of a function call. So essentially, EDRs, endpoint protections, are performing their own process injections. When a new process spawns, an EDR will inject a DLL into that process. And what that DLL does is it modifies all of the other API functions that have been mapped into that process. And it redirects them to an area of code that has been introduced by the EDR that exists inside of that DLL. So for instance, if you call message box A, the first few instructions of message box A have been replaced with a jump instruction that jumps into the area of code injected by the EDR. This is how they're able to intercept API calls, at least in user mode. And if it was determined that something fishy was going on, they could just shut it down right there. Hooking is done, of course, in user mode, which makes it way more prone to tampering. There are 1,000,001 techniques for bypassing user mode hooks, like you mentioned earlier, with direct syscalls. Kernel callbacks is a mechanism provided by the kernel that a driver can subscribe to a callback or register a callback function, so that when a certain event happens, the kernel will iterate over an array of callback functions and invoke those functions. So, do I have an example here? Yeah. The most relevant are going to be create thread notify routines and image load notify routines. This will trigger functions in the EDR driver when a thread is created or when an image is loaded into memory. And by image, I don't just mean DLL, I mean a PE image, so that's EXEs and DLLs. And drivers, apparently. Kernel callbacks, inherently more difficult to tamper with because they exist in the fucking kernel, right? You can't just go mucking about in the kernel from user mode. So they are more difficult to tamper with, but not as extensible as user mode hooks, right? Hooking is done in user mode, so it can be applied to any API function by the anti-malware. Kernel callbacks, a good number of them are defined by the kernel, right? So you don't just get to, you can define your own callbacks for a driver, but not relevant ones. The most relevant ones are defined by the kernel. So they're not as extensive, is what I'm trying to say. Kind of wrapping all of that up here together. Also, by the way, if you, like I said, I'm a little gray when it comes to kernel callbacks. If you know more about kernel callbacks, I would fucking love to hear from you. Okay, so wrapping all of this up together real quick. First of all, endpoint protection often exists in the kernel as a driver and in user mode as probably a Windows service or some other sort of helper process. Event tracing for Windows, outputs crazy detailed amounts of telemetry, and that gets shipped off to the cloud where behavioral analysis is performed. User mode hooks or callbacks used to intercept that potentially malicious activity, right? So let's say event tracing for Windows outputs a bunch of telemetry that says, oh, a process was accessed, memory was allocated, memory was written, right? We call open process, it's a little suspicious. As we work our way through that injection, we start to fit the profile of the behavior that they're looking for. And eventually, our real intentions are revealed, obviously with the call to create remote thread. And at that point, when we match enough of that profile to be considered malicious, we can be stopped right there before we go any further. That's kind of how it all wraps up together. Like I said, I'm a little shaky here with the kernel routines, or with the kernel callbacks being placed here in the sort of way I've chosen to represent that. I would seriously love to hear from people who know more about that. Another reason it sucks, Windows exploit protections, okay? Memory corruption attacks have been a thing fucking forever, and Microsoft has tried many things to mitigate them. It should be no surprise, because process injection involves manipulating memory, there's a lot of overlap between binary exploitation and process injection. Meaning, a lot of these mitigations that are meant to prevent remote memory corruptions do apply to process injections. This is right here where I linked that 2019 Black Hat talk by Safe Breach. They go into some detail about specifically code integrity guard and control flow guard and how that can affect various process injections. Very cool. Finally, and up till now we've been focused on behaviors and sequences of behaviors that make us look suspicious. Even if we get away with it and we manage to perform the injection, we have left behind some sort of in-memory artifact, whether it's the read-write-execute memory page, like I said, that in and of itself is suspicious. Or, I don't know, maybe it's the fucking fact that you can have a DLL loaded into memory that's not associated with anything on disk. That's pretty fucking suspicious. I highly recommend PECID, which can be used to scan processes for in-memory artifacts, anomalies. This example I actually ran at home right before I came here, and it is flagging on the shellcode that we injected. Links to all the shit. Finn. If you want to feel cool, go fucking read everything on iRed.team. Everything under the code injection section, read fucking all of it. iRed.team's awesome. A lot of good resources out there.
So, what kind of exploits, suppose we do a user mode, what kind of exploits are likely? What kind of exploits?
What kind of exploits? No. What kind of payloads? What kind of payloads are likely in compromising a low privilege user? Low privilege, like a botnet attack? What sort of things would a malicious actor want to accomplish? That's what I want to know.
Could you repeat that?
What sorts of things would a malicious actor want to accomplish by compromising a low privilege user?
The low privilege user was really just an example to show that you don't always need elevated privileges to perform a process injection. It was really more so meant to demonstrate that the process injection is subject to Windows access control. So obviously more privileges means more opportunities to inject into more processes. That's what I said earlier. I don't typically see a lot of process injection alerts originating from a low privilege user, and that just happens to be what I chose for the demo. When I do see process injection alerts, it's honestly mostly security products. If you have multiple security products installed on one endpoint, they'll sometimes fight each other because they're each performing their own injections, and the other ones see that as a threat.
seen with the new architectures that have the protected page tables. In hardware stack protection, page table protection, and so on, to watch for rewrites and halting that at the actual hardware.
I don't know shit about
Is this more in-depth to Windows versus Linux, or is it valuable?
That's a good question. I did mean to mention this earlier, but thank you. There are injection techniques that target Linux. Majority, I would say, of the research that goes into finding new injection techniques does target Windows. I would assume primarily because, right, a lot of businesses run from Windows, so that's the majority of the attack surface. But secondly, the Windows API is just so fucking huge. It's so comprehensive that there's a lot of opportunities in that API to perform some sort of injection. So it's just a larger service.